Hi everyone, this is Dr. Job Mogire. Today is post-Thanksgiving, but we keep going because we have 65 to get to. We have an important place to go to. I want us to have a brief discussion, brief but hopefully important discussion today. And I want to share with you what I call the 3 tools of moment-to-moment execution. 3 tools for moment-to-moment execution. And these are practical, but it takes time for you to lock into the attitude and to apply it moment by moment. This is one of those ingredients I should have discussed way earlier, but I have committed myself to not discuss things that I am not implementing in my life. And in all honesty, this is one I struggle with the most because my mind, like your mind, has the habit of drifting very easily. So let's look at these 3 tools for moment to moment execution. The first tool for moment to moment execution is accountability in the moment. Accountability in the moment. And I want you to think of accountability in 2 ways. There is accountability to other people. In other words, the requirement you place on yourself to honor the promises you've made to other people, that's one part. But the part I want you to buy into is accountability to yourself. And I want you to relabel that as ownership in the moment, ownership of your results in the moment, ownership of your actions in the moment, ownership of your attitude in the moment. So that it doesn't matter what happened yesterday, it doesn't matter what is going to happen tomorrow. Do you have ownership of your perspective in this moment, of your actions in this moment? Do you have ownership of what things mean in this moment? Yes, they disrespected you, but do you have ownership of what that means in the moment so that you can begin to switch from why did they disrespect me to why did I feel disrespected? Ownership. So that if, for example, it is this 90-day challenge, what if everyone else dropped off? Would you remain challenging yourself for the remaining part of the 90 days because you have taken ownership of your actions, of your direction in this moment, ownership right now? There is never going to be ownership tomorrow, ownership next year, or even ownership later in the day, in the afternoon, or in the evening if you do not practice ownership right now. Accountability for what you have a responsibility to deliver to other people, but most importantly, accountability for your own promises. What is it you have promised yourself? What is it you have committed yourself to? What is it that you hold yourself to the grind to deliver, to learn, to improve, to refine, to complete, to persist in? What is it that is a promise to yourself that must be honored? Because the more consistently I learn to honor my promises to myself, the easier it becomes to honor promises to other people. In fact, it becomes automatic because everything that I have promised to other people is connected to promises that I make to myself. Accountability right now, in this moment. What areas of accountability in this moment in your life do you need a more accurate perspective of? Do you need to have a higher awareness about, a deeper insight into? Ownership of your circumstances, ownership of your history, ownership of your future, ownership of the breadth of your goals, the height of your expectation, the clarity of your vision, the intensity of your energy, the consistency of your schedule. Being accountable to other people, but taking ownership as the highest form of accountability to yourself. Because there's accountability here, accountability elsewhere becomes very easy. That is the first one. The first tool. This is a tool to use. You sit down, you stay still, you get ready, then you decide I am accountable right now, and I am going to take action for what I do. I am going to take action for what I pay attention to. I'm going to take ownership of what I will pay attention to. I'm taking ownership of what is going to consume my time, my energy. I'm going to take ownership of how much I'm going to accomplish this moment. Oh, there's distractions around me. I am taking ownership of how much this work means to me so that I do not drift into whatever else is going on around me and take ownership. I am tired. I am taking ownership of my rest. Oh, there is pressure in the office, but I'm too tired to be effective. I am taking ownership of what physical state this body needs to be in. That's the first tool. Accountability, but the biggest ingredient in accountability is your desire, decision, determination, ability to take ownership of what's important in this moment. Not later, not tomorrow, not next year, not over the weekend, not after coronavirus is gone, but in this moment. Are you taking ownership of your journey? Realizing that all the actions that go into your journey are your responsibility and you're taking ownership of them. Realizing that all the consequences and results from those actions are your responsibility and you are taking ownership. Taking ownership so that you never have to compare your results to anybody's. Taking ownership so that you never have to complain to anybody about it. Taking ownership so much that you almost have no time to start criticizing other people's journeys because you realize that they are struggling with taking ownership. But that finger you're pointing to them can also be turned and pointed back to you because you have ownership to take, practicing taking ownership in the moment. The second tool is commitment in the moment. Commitment in the moment. We have a tendency as human beings to anticipate a future that will be better than this moment. And yet, tomorrow is dependent on what I do right now. The next hour, the next 3, 4 hours, the afternoon is dependent on what I do in this hour, in this morning, in the next 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. Commitment in the moment. Commitment is the pathway to momentum. And that is because momentum is the eventual accumulation of moment to moment commitment. That's why it's called momentum. Momentum because it is an add-on, it is accumulative, it's a composite of moment to moment. It is momentum because it is a characteristic that is arising as a result of that characteristic being practiced or manifested from moment to moment. That characteristic is being elicited from moment to moment, such that if I want to gain momentum in writing, I want to gain momentum in studying, I want to gain momentum in teaching, I want to gain momentum in coaching, I do it moment to moment. So if those moments are occurring every day at a particular time, I am committed to practice commitment in the moment so that no matter what happens, this is one morning when it would be very easy for me to say like, oh my goodness, I'm too tired. No, let's let this thing go. But I know what that will do to the momentum I already have from having invested the last 58 days showing up every day. Momentum is a result of moment to moment commitment. If you're committed in this moment and in the next moment and the subsequent moment, subsequently you have 10 moments, 15 moments, you have 50 moments, 60 moments, 100 moments, and you have been committed in the moment in each of those moments, you eventually automatically end up with momentum, and momentum becomes your friend. Momentum makes things easier. Momentum makes the results look bigger than they are. Momentum makes you look better than you are because you have been doing it, and the energy makes it easy. You spend less time, you delve deeper, you stay longer, you enjoy the process more. Commitment in the moment. That is the second tool. So that those commitments you make, those commitments don't end with that 1 hour and then they wait until the next day or the next afternoon or the next week for that commitment to show up. But rather, the commitment becomes a tool. It becomes a tool where I am taking ownership and I am committed. I am taking ownership. These are my results and I am committing. What does committing mean? Committing means staying until the result you committed to is seen. But the easier way that I look at it is staying until the actions you committed to executing are complete. In other words, committed until you get all your lead measures taken care of. If it's going to take a month or 3 months or six weeks or 3 years, whatever time it's going to take, you have created a schedule that you can sustain, and you are committed from moment to moment. If it's going to take you 3 years, and you waste the first year, you have already wasted a big chunk of time from which you would have gotten the momentum for the second year to be more impactful. Can you imagine what would happen to your life in the next 3 years if you showed up as consistently as we have done in the last 58 days? And you did this every day, so that every single day you have a compelling idea you are thinking about. And that idea drives how you utilize your time, your energy, and your attention every single day for the next 3 years. You will outgrow literally everyone you know that has been in your circle. You will outgrow all of them, everyone, number one. Number two, the opportunities that you are currently having access to will become too small. The environment you are in will become too small for you. There is in the Bible, there's a story about Jabez. I use it as a neutral story that there are principles in there that you can learn. Jabez prayed a prayer, "Oh, that you may expand my boundaries." The word, most of the translations uses, "Oh, that you may expand my territory." My question to you is, what is your territory? What is your territory? You have heard of the Berlin Wall, the Berlin Wall that came down in 1989. The Berlin Wall, that was the physical wall. It was just a tiny little wall in between that was made of bricks. So that when the wall came down, we don't even have like a great video of the wall coming down, because the wall was symbolic. Because there was the actual wall, but beyond the wall on both sides, there were tunnels, there were places where there were dogs, there were barbed wire fences, and then there was, of course, the emotional repulsion between the factions of Berlin, of this wall that divided Germany, right? So that wall essentially created a boundary, so that you had two sides of Berlin, but these are like two separate territories. But when the wall came down, it wasn't the physical wall that was the most important part of that wall coming down. It was the emotional wall and the intellectual perception. It was the wall, the physical wall was symbolic of the wall that was inside people's hearts and inside people's minds. You and I have created territories. We have walls which have carved out what our territory is, the territory we live in emotionally, we live in intellectually, we live in terms of our skills. What is your territory? If God was to expand your territory so that you have access to more, what will more look like? In other words, how different would your life be? That means what else would you experience? When you look at your goals, are you setting goals that keep you such that if your life was, if you were to accomplish these goals, are you just going to have more of the same? When you set those goals, do you see yourself having, for example, you want a new house, right? Is it exactly almost essentially the same house, the same size as the house you have, but now you own it? Or is it potentially much bigger house, much more beautiful than you can even imagine? Commitment in the moment helps you to break the barriers with regards to what you think you could do, how long you thought you could persist, how big you think you could dream, how far out you think you could network. Commitment in the moment, committing to executing everything you think you need, you commit yourself to, everything that you choose to focus on as your lead measure, so that you have ownership in the moment, but you have commitment in the moment too. Commitment to stay as long as it takes. Commitment to show up every single day that you have decided you're going to show up, no matter what happens. So that some days like today, you will show up for 15 minutes, but you will show up, so that you do not break the momentum, because commitment is the pathway to momentum. When you get momentum, it makes it very easy to break beyond the boundaries, to expand your territory emotionally, your territory in terms of your skill, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your self-leadership, so that you start to experience a bigger internal reality, because of the commitment has allowed you to exercise consistent self-discipline that has created momentum and made it easier for you to start to act bigger, to believe bigger, to overcome some of your biggest obstacles. The third tool, the third tool for daily execution is greatness in the moment. Greatness in the moment. My question to you is very simple. Right now, if you could, if you could score yourself, it's scoring is something that we grow up doing from when we are very little. So unfortunately, it's one of the tools that is very easy to utilize, but it's not the best, but it's what all we have. But if you could score yourself right this moment on a scale of 1 to 100, where we're using the percentages, how great are you showing up right now? How great are you showing up? We get sold into the illusion that some days are greater than others. For example, that Christmas is coming, or Thanksgiving is coming, or a certain holiday is coming, or our wedding anniversary is coming, or that my birthday is coming up. We get sold into the illusion that some days are greater than others, that some moments are greater than others, that some actions are greater than others. Yet, when you look at some of the most successful speakers, some of the most successful athletes, sports people, some of the most successful journalists, some of the most successful teachers, some of the most successful doctors, everyone will tell you that there is no difference between this moment and that moment. Most of the time, the only difference is the limelight. So, for example, for an athlete, sometimes they win, they go and compete, maybe it's in the Olympics, and they win, but this is not their best. During practice, they have broken the barrier by a bigger margin than they are doing on the actual day. If you listen to the sprinters, sometimes they run their best. You will always hear people's best being mentioned, especially athletes, that he is coming in with a best of 9:37. In other words, during his practice, his timed practice and prior races, that he has hit this mark before. And therefore, we expect that he is going to do really well. Many times, athletes end up winning with a performance, a time that is longer by maybe microseconds or even by minutes than some of the time they have recorded during practice. In other words, each of these moments has been part of the journey, creating the momentum that they will need to do well during practice, because they're coming to compete sometimes in a different city, in a different country, in a different continent, in a different climate, in a different set of weather conditions. You can imagine, for example, Kenyan athletes who exercise and practice and prepare in some of the upcountry areas in the Rift Valley, where they are in the highest part of that region, highland areas where the training sites are located. Excuse me. And then from there, they go to compete in a coastal town. Those are very different circumstances, but they are showing up with momentum, having been practicing and trying for greatness in the moment in every practice. In other words, they practice the same way they will compete, which means there is no difference between practice and the actual performance. The day you and I switch our lives to start living with the mindset of manifesting greatness in the moment, reading like the greatest student, writing like the greatest writer you could be, giving it your best, showing up and challenging yourself to manifest the very best of your energy, the deepest of your attention, and the highest of your energy and time. Probably I've repeated myself, but you get the drift. Showing up and pouring yourself in this moment with your highest so that you manifest greatness in this moment. If you combine these three tools, if you have accountability in the moment, accountability which internally translates to total ownership, 100% ownership of your results and your actions in the moment, and you manifest commitment, which is the pathway to your momentum. If you have commitment in the moment and consistently keep that commitment, it gives you momentum. And if you also show up with greatness in the moment, with the determination, the decision to pour yourself out, the best of your time, the best of your energy, and the deepest of your attention. If you put these three tools together and you do it consistently in the course of 1 year, you will be transformed. It will no longer be your life. You will go into a higher level course to study, whether it's a master's or a PhD, or it's another bachelor's, or you're taking some certification programs, and you come out with an amount of knowledge that is 3 times what was availed in during the training. That's because they had the curriculum, but you were going through a higher level of curriculum. You took every piece of content they are giving you and you tripled it up, such that at the end of that training, you are looking at these ideas at the same level the teacher is, or possibly higher because you have ignited yourself every day, shown up with accountability and total personal ownership of your actions and commitment, which has created momentum so that by the time people are beginning to start thinking about, oh, we need to study, we need to prepare, you don't even need to prepare because you've been preparing every single day. And every class you show up, you are showing up with greatness. Every reading session, every study session, every assignment, you are showing up with greatness. This is how we take our life to the next level. When you hear people say level up, this is what leveling up means. Because leveling up has to happen in the moment, right now, today. Leveling up has to happen in this moment. Because if I do it right now, I know without a doubt that one of these days I'm going to be speaking to a corporate in this country, in the US, or maybe in another continent, and it's not going to be any different. I will show up in one of my blue t-shirts, or maybe if it's appropriate to be in a suit or whatever, there won't be anything different. There will be this camera Logitech ahead of me. There will be a laptop. There will be a seat. The house might be different. Everything else might be different, but it will be the same voice. I will be processing ideas the same way. I will be playing in my mind the ideas the way I have memorized them so that I can present them without having to require notes. And I will be seated there, so present, being able to see the people on the screen and presenting exactly the same way. And it would just be the same thing that I've been doing for the last 58 days. This is where we want to get to. This is what I want to experience more of. Experiencing more of me showing up to be a physician and feeling it like the previous day, because the previous day I showed up and pushed myself to be at as a high level as I could be. And when I showed up as a speaker, I did the same thing. And when I showed up in my social responsibilities, I did the same thing, because that's it. That's it for me. I want to speak, I want to practice medicine, and I want to live a full life this other side. That is it. When I look at the disciplines I shared with you, focus, narrow your focus so that you focus on the widely important. I have narrowed to that area so that all the goals I have are in those three realms. Speak, so become a speaker, whatever it's going that's going to take, and practice medicine. And I'm going to hopefully subspecialize so that I narrow down even more, and life, so that there's this other part that is it's the reason why I am doing all these other things. My challenge to you today is, how do you get to total ownership of your actions and your results and your journey? How do you get there? Number two, how do you get to your momentum so that it is available to you every day? And number three, how do you get to the highest version of yourself, driven by greatness? And all of this, ownership, momentum, and your highest self, present and effective and acting in the moment, right now, in the next hour, in the afternoon or evening, wherever you are, the next day, the next month, especially the remaining days of this year, because from tomorrow, 28th, we are starting on a journey and committing to level this game up, push this game a notch higher, and intentionally deciding to ignite a new ignition box and burn the fuel we have, the time, the energy, and attention we have for a higher purpose. I hope you find something valuable from this short sharing so that we can utilize this as fuel to push us to the next level. Now I'm going to open for us to have a brief reflection, because that is our ritual, and then we will close off. And please think about these three tools, the tools for daily execution. If you combine these three tools with the other ingredients we've covered, the disciplines, the 4 steps, the content we have covered during the 90-day challenge, I have no doubt whatsoever your life must be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because what we are doing here, we are literally renewing our mind every single day. So I'm going to open up now for discussion and just share what's your biggest takeaway, and of course conclude it with I commit to. And remember, today's level of commitment is at a higher level. When you say commit to, you are saying, I am going to develop momentum around this thing that I'm saying I'm committing to. And you develop momentum by doing it in the moment and doing it over and over and over. Let's start off with Judith.
My biggest takeaway today is accountability in the moment. I want to take action and also take ownership of, like, to be accountable for everything that I do in the moment, because I just learned that it is the small things that we do in the moment that will ultimately lead to achievement of your bigger goal. So I commit to taking accountability and ownership of every action that I take in the moment.
Wow. I love it. And you said it so succinctly and so poignantly. I love it. And it hit me just by how you said it. Yeah, accountability and ownership in the moment. Oh, let that sink in. And I hope you picked that. Let's hear from James.
Thank you. I think today goes down as one of the shortest sessions we've had, but it's one that is really profound. It is putting me in a position where I am looking at the word movement and the noun itself, movement. I am getting to appreciate just how small it is, but it bears so much weight on everything else that follows. This moment affects the next one and the next one and the next one. Literally, life itself is just a collection of movement. It's one moment after the other. So So if it comes to me that if we do not consider these three things that we've covered today in every moment, then in truth we are not living, we're not alive, we're just going through life. If we do not live each moment fully, we're just merely going through life. And I'll finish by one of the questions that was asked. I think it was under point number 2, commitment in the moment. Will expansion mean having more of what you have now? I've added onto that, or and said, or is it going to be, leveling up? And I realized that leveling up is not something that happens all of a sudden. It's building one moment after the other after the other. There was an example. We gave a short exercise at the beginning of I think the challenge, when we were working on decluttering, and we were asking, if you heard that Obama was going to be spending a night at your place, what are the things that you would do differently? And literally, I think we need to get to that level with everything that we do, so that if as we've been told, as it has been said, that if no matter who is coming, the things will still be done the same, because you have trained yourself to do things in the best ways in that moment. That is what I have to share. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I love that you tied back to some of those pieces. And that is just, I love it. So just to add to what you've said, I woke up today. It was about 10 minutes to the beginning of the challenge, and I had a splitting headache. So I went and took paracetamol here. It's called Tylenol, and reset the alarm and went to bed. And because of these ideas I was thinking about from yesterday about ownership, I was like, I believe in you guys to take ownership and show up and start discussing. So I said, I'm not sending any WhatsApp message. this community will manifest a level of ownership. And I wanted to be pleasantly surprised, and I was pleasantly surprised. So when I was leaving the house, I'm like, I'm in a hurry, I will run late, right? So I got out of the bedroom, I had already dressed up. Then I looked back. I'm like, no, there is no way I'm leaving this place like this. So I went back and made the bed. Like, I made it just the same way I made the bed, then went back went to, like, I did 5 of the actions that I do in the morning. I did them in quick succession because I don't want to break that momentum. And so this ties back to what, James, you've raised. If Obama was coming to your house, if some dignitary was coming to your house, will you feel the need to change some things? Because if you feel the need to change some things, it means you have assigned yourself a lower value than you have assigned to other people. And unfortunately, you have assigned that value, your lower value, to yourself as part of your identity. And until that changes, until I value myself the same way I value other people, whoever they are, because I will never have access to Obama's life, but I have access to my life every day. And it won't cost me anything more for me to value myself the same way I would value anyone else, whether it's whichever celebrity or whoever else. It's that this can be a discussion all by itself. James, thank you for this. You guys are giving me food to think about over. These are not new ideas, but there's just a way they hit me when they come out from other people's thoughts and minds, which is why I think some of the sessions, I think we'll just come in and we just have a discussion, and I am just part of the audience because I want to absorb this too. Let's hear from Elena.
Good morning, Job. My biggest takeaway from today is the idea of the analogy of thinking like a successful athlete. One moment from another should not look any different. So showing up is consistent all through. And what reads to me is that am I expanding my mindset in terms of believing bigger visions for myself? In as much as I'm gaining momentum with the consistency of pursuing my goals, am I seeing a greater self-discipline in my pursuit towards my goals? My commitment is to look into the areas of accountability that I need a greater sense of awareness or insight in terms of consistency with my schedule. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for those questions. Thank you for those questions. And I have seen your journey on the challenge, Elena, and I'm very excited to see where you'll be in the next 2 to 3 years. Just 2 to 3 years by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I really showing up? That's a question I ask myself. Am I locking myself into a groove where delivering the content of this challenge has become, like an ordinary thing? That's a question. So you're asking yourself questions that I'm asking myself. Like, when I watch these videos 4 years from today, will I be like, should have done this or should have done that? That things that I could do right now, or am I doing everything based on the level of my skill, the level of my preparation, and the focus of these sessions? And this is a question for each of us to ask, to develop awareness moment to moment. Thank you, Elena, for that. Let's hear from Anne.
Hi, no matter my current circumstance or past performance, I will be clear on where I want to be in the next few years. And more importantly, I commit all my plan and routines for the benefit of my personal as well as professional growth. One thing that I'm sure of is looking forward or looking ahead, where I'll be expected to lead an activity, I will prepare adequately so that I deliver beyond my past performances. I know there are areas where I'll need to seek help, so I'll note them down. I'll include that in my plan.
Yeah.
So that whatever opportunity I may need to or I'll have to deliver on, I'll give my best, because knowing that I'll not really have another chance to give that. I do have some professional growth areas that I've noted. I'll work on them and ensure that that would enable me to maintain the momentum, unlike always stepping back just to sharpen my skill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's our biggest challenge. That's why this all challenge is anchored on the foundation of intentional growth. I've shared those foundations with you, everyone, but the foundations of intentional growth. Let's make that a session all by itself to recap the foundations of intentional growth. But if you remember, from everything we covered, from the mistake gap to, I look at the content we've covered, and it's just so exciting. So, Anne, yes, sharpening skills happens, every single day. In the journey of learning public speaking, one of the things that I had to learn to do is to stop saying, you would realize that when I speak, if it comes out, it will be occasional, but that's not how I always spoke. It took time, attending Toastmasters meetings and being pointed out. Eventually it disappeared because it was a clutch. It was something that I did all the time. So that I use that as an example, not as an indictment to anyone, but as an example that awareness in the moment helps you transform. That's the journey to sharpening your skill, to deepening your knowledge, to broadening your perspective, to expanding your boundaries, breaking the barriers you've created for yourself, so that when you grow, you don't experience more of the same. You become open to experiencing realms you've never even thought existed. Things that other people are experiencing that you've never experienced yourself, that allow you to truly level up. So, Anne, let's keep going. And whatever you need from this community, we are happy to support you. Every one of us here, we need support from each other for us to keep going and to keep leveling up. I think we haven't heard from Diba.
Good morning, Job. Thank you, everyone. My takeaway from this session is the aspect of commitment in every moment. Commitment in every moment with the view of building up a momentum that's able to take you throughout for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week, and for the rest of the year. While you are presenting this concept, I could actually visualize and feel how showing up 100% with the deepest attention can build up that momentum that's able to take you throughout the rest of the day and the week and for the rest of the year. And this also ties up with the idea of micro-igniting when you are initiating every activity or task, so that you tackle that task with the deepest attention and commitment. So that is my takeaway from this session. Thank you for the passionate, impassioned presentation. Over.
Thank you, Diba. You've yes. Oh, it's showing up 100%. You know, especially the moments that matter will be transformation. That's it. I won't need any other. I mean, if I show up 100%, I won't even believe what I'm capable of achieving. There's a quote that says, "We would be shocked at ourselves if we did everything we are capable of." And there's something I was thinking about yesterday, that the market doesn't pay you for what you know. The market pays you for the ideas you execute on. The market pays you for the ideas you execute on. That's why professors are not paid as much as they are worth, because he's a professor of architecture, but he's not executing on the ideas he knows. He's just teaching them. He teaches them, and then he goes home to live in a house that was built by a mason or a carpenter, right? He's a professor of architecture, but he's not executing on the ideas that he knows. Any professional in architecture who is executing on the ideas that they have is definitely living a higher quality of life than a lecturer who just teaches architecture and doesn't live it. You, as physicians, it's an extra responsibility for us to live healthy lives, because you don't want me to show up with my oxygen tank to come and treat you, because I am not executing on the ideas that I know, and it's just a bummer. It dulls down everything. The ideas you have, if you start executing on them, the market has to honor you, the market has to pay you, your worth has to rise, and you execute them moment to moment. So remember the 3 tools for daily execution: accountability, which eventually leads to ownership; commitment, which leads to momentum; the greatness, which leads to you manifesting your highest self moment to moment. I look forward to see you tomorrow at the event, the meeting with ourselves. You show up tomorrow dressed up. You show up tomorrow for an important appointment, because we are going to do something profound tomorrow. My name is Dr. Job Mogire from the House of Mastery, and this series is part of the 90-day Breakthrough Challenge, because breakthrough is not an event. It is a process that depends on momentum, and we are doing this every day for 90 days. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the next session. Keep living with passion.